drop down, okay? Let's go. We don't want to go to 101. Lee the Gunwriter Williams, welcome in. So moving on. Thanks, AWR Hawkins. Lee the Gunwriter Williams, how you doing, man?
It's good to be here. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. So I got a question for you before we get into some of the news of the day today. I had a guitar lesson today, and I drive into this little town 15 minutes away from me. And you can't go in the way you get into this little town. I want you to, radio is theater of their mind, so I'll just paint the picture. There's a lot of towns like this in Georgia, but it's a town square with a gazebo in the center, and they have the First Fridays and all that stuff out there. It's a quaint little town. The county courthouse is there, and it's a beautiful little place. Guys, if you watch any movies, you've seen this town in lots of movies. They do a lot of filming, Hollywood does around here. But it's the speed limit ain't but 20 miles an hour coming into the town. And as you come over these railroad tracks where I get over, and you go around a sharp bend, and there's a four-way stop sign right there. And then I go straight into the town and off to my guitar lesson at the music shop. I was coming back down the opposite way, and went to make a left turn at that little four-way stop sign. And cops, there was at least 20 patrol cars, 3 fire engines, 4 or 5 ambulances. And they were directing traffic back into the town. I went, ruh-roh. And I looked over to the left, and not 50 feet from that stop sign was a car flipped over and another one flipped over, both of them completely crushed. I'm telling you now, sadly, there's no way anybody walked away from that. Lee, as law enforcement foreman, you've probably responded to a lot of incidents like this. How in the world does the physics allow that to happen at low speed like that? You can't go fast there. How in the world could something like that occur? I'm just asking for a friend because I saw it with my own eyes, and it did not make any sense to me. Any idea? I have one theory. I'll tell you in a second.
I've seen cars that are flipped at several accidents. It's not as common as you would think. Having 2 flipped on one accident, I would estimate that somebody was going a little bit faster than the 20-mile-an-hour speed.
I'm going to guess by the amount of cops there, because it wasn't 3 blocks away from the town, from the city police department. I'm going to guess that may very well have been some type of high-speed pursuit, because there is no possible way. I mean, they were crushed, literally crushed. There was no top of each vehicle. And I can't imagine. That was a violent upside-down rollover collision that at normal speeds, I don't even think that could happen at 40 or 50 miles an hour, and it's very difficult to go that speed there, if not impossible. So I guess I'm just going to have to wait and read about it, but it really piqued my curiosity, Lee. I thought it was crazy, and I was wondering if, I was thinking it had to have been with the amount of police vehicles. There was likely a high-speed pursuit or something like that. I don't know. What do I know? It was just, it fascinated me.
You're only going to get a couple vehicles for an accident. You're going to get everybody and their brother for a pursuit where there's bad guys out there.
Well, again, that just points out that it doesn't matter where you are, ladies and gentlemen. You have got to stay alert, because these things can unfold just like that. So I didn't miss it by far, I can tell you that much. But it was Godspeed to the people in the vehicles, because I doubt anybody's walking away from that. No question. There didn't appear to be a lot of rushing, if you know what I mean. So, Lee, we have some news out of the Third Circuit today. I don't know if you've caught it yet. Have you seen the Third Circuit?
That'd be no.
Well,
Let's
go into
I can't wait to hear it. I hope it's good.
No, it's not. It's not bad. It is what it is. And I guess Bill Clinton famously said, depends on how you define what is. Third Circuit has let New Jersey's assault weapons ban remain in effect. Yeah. So that broke today. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that and why that's not really, I don't know, bad news. I guess if you're in New Jersey, it sucks. It's bad news, but it's really more just along the lines of news, I think. That's the way I'm going to frame this. Not something unexpected. There was an appeal, and here's what the Third Circuit said. They stayed their own ruling, by the way, which was a 10-5 en banc decision, written, a very strong pro-Second Amendment decision, written by a Biden-appointed judge. And today, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals granted a stay regarding its assault weapons ban ruling, and that stay will allow the gun control to remain in effect for now. Here's what for now means. It's because the future of assault weapons is now in question, okay? Because Supreme Court has agreed to hear the case. Go ahead.
I think it's in question by the other team. I don't think it's in question by you and I and guys who are on the right side of the issue.
Correct. in question only because it's working its way through, and the Supreme Court has agreed to accept cert in those two cases. And the case that matters here is Grant v. Higgins is one of the two that are well, they're not consolidated. They're being heard in a consolidated fashion, but still two separate cases. The Third Circuit has agreed to allow that stay to remain in place pending the Supreme Court's disposition of the movant, meaning the state's anticipated petition for a writ of cert at SCOTUS, or until the time for filing such a petition has expired. So this is an interesting angle to take here. Will New Jersey seek cert in this case, knowing the Supreme Court has already agreed to take two cases? There's some nuance here. Let's talk through this. If I said no, they won't, there's a reason they wouldn't do it, because the Supreme Court has already agreed to hear these cases. It would be somewhat redundant, wouldn't it, Lee?
Yes, it would be redundant. It'd be a waste of time, which is why they're going to do it in New Jersey.
That's the other side of the coin. We're talking about New Jersey, and knowing that the Third Circuit has agreed to stay its own decision until they either get a response from the court on cert, which could take months. If they get one at all, it could go to conference and just never be heard because they've already granted cert in two similar cases. That is why I believe New Jersey will likely do it, because that would, in fact, keep the stay that the Third Circuit put in place until those two things happen, likely until the Supreme Court makes a decision in June, Lee.
Yeah, without a doubt. New Jersey is going to do the dumbest move possible because it's New Jersey and New Jersey lawmakers and New Jersey judges. So they're going to waste everybody's time and money trying to get more gun restrictions put on before the Supreme Court says, no, you can have an AR in all 50 states and every single territory.
Yeah, and I would say that if it were not for SCOTUS already granting cert in Viramontes and Higgins, New Jersey might not have sought cert at the Supreme Court simply because the other blue states wouldn't want the court to grant cert and make it the law of the land, thereby leaving the ruling standing in the Third Circuit, which would hurt New Jersey and New Jersey politicians' egos and feelings because they lost. But the other gun banners, much like they did in Ren v. DC, et cetera, are going to harp on them and say, look, don't seek cert at the Supreme Court. We don't want this to be the law in our circuit as well.
Right.
But the court has already granted cert. So this is interesting for a number of different reasons. Here's my guess. I could be wrong. We're going to know very, very soon. We'll be able to report back to you. I believe, like you do, that they will seek cert, if only for the purpose of keeping the stay in place as long as possible because of the two conditions we just mentioned, Lee.
Without a doubt. I mean, we're looking at a year, basically, before the Supreme Court issues their huge. I would say this would probably be one of the biggest decisions that they've made.
Ever. Hold that thought, Lee. We're getting ready to take a break. We've only got about 10 seconds. So hang tight with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back. Indeed, you can find Blackout Coffee at blackoutcoffee.com/AAR. And above me, if you're watching on your devices or screens or TV sets or whatever you're watching on, that is a Blackout Coffee QR code. So make sure to check that out. It will get you through your day. It gets me through mine as well. Got another couple coming tomorrow. Lee the Gunwriter Williams, welcome back in, brother.
Thank you. Great to be here again.
So let's go back to that for just a couple of moments. I had a chance to think a little bit more about that during the break, and I'm going to stick to my guns on that, pun intended. I think that's going to be the game plan. They know they're not going to win this case. They're going to prolong the pain and misery for their law-abiding citizens as long as possible, won't they? And that is the way to phrase that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the way to phrase that. And I'm sure they're going to have press releases announcing how they're keeping killers at bay. They're keeping the deadly ARs out of their state for, what, a couple extra months?
Well, you can hear the propaganda now. The Third Circuit stayed its own decision because they know they made a bad rule. You know, that's the kind of propaganda we expect to hear. I'm not in New Jersey, thankfully. So I don't know that for a fact, but we've been doing this a long time, and that's certainly the way a lot of their politicians talk. So that being said, New Jersey. Look, nothing really changes here. It just happens to be that you're in the Third Circuit. They could have taken a Seventh Circuit case. You'd still be in the same boat. So I hate to look at it that way. I really, truly do. But the cavalry is coming. A fix is on its way. You just got to suck it up a little bit longer. And there were some interesting developments. I had Pincus on the program, who was in New Jersey when the decision came down. He's an FFL, has a lot of friends in New Jersey that are FFLs that were beginning to stock and sell product. That's all nixed right now, and my recommendation at this point is don't even think about it. Lee, that's a great place to segue, because you have a piece up on how to avoid ATF's homemade silencer entanglements. Let's talk a little bit about this in the context of there are states that say the federal regulations do not apply. For example, Tennessee famously did this, and people in Tennessee famously went to prison as a result, because federal law supersedes state law. But if all parts are manufactured in the state, Commerce Clause came in here. That was just how they tried to get around that. Thomas is arguing that now. It's a very complicated issue. But the bottom line is the ATF, it's not going to matter what state you're in. What's the deal here? Explain this.
I'm contacted by a former ATF official who didn't want his name used. And he says, with his strongest warning, the ATF is asking for information that they could use against you for anybody who fills out a Form 1, a digital Form 1, to make a homemade silencer. When asked, it says right on the form, please submit the following descriptive information. Pictures of the parts that you'll use to make the silencer. The picture should be clear and allow identification of the parts photographed. Failure to upload additional documentation could lead to the Form 1 being disapproved. Well, that's a nice thing to say, but unfortunately for the people involved, if you take parts and you're going to make them into a silencer, guess what you have? You have a silencer right now, even though it's not assembled. So he was kind of freaking out. I don't disagree with that. So I called our friend, Robert Cicada, the head of the ATF, and I said, hey, this is an issue here. He said, yes, but it's done for one specific reason, to prevent the issue of these solvent traps, which are basically a silencer you buy in China or North Korea and ship over here. They even have marks on them where to drill.
Yeah.
He said it drill here. I had no idea about that. So he said, he said nobody will be charged, nobody will be jailed for complying with the Form 1, but that's only as long as he's running the ATF. So if you take pictures of what you intend to build your suppressor, your silencer, whatever you want to call it, out of, and you ship them in, hopefully they're going to whack the pictures before he leaves office.
There's no guarantee of that. And again, this is, okay,
exactly.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I had this conversation with Jared Yanis. Both of us are in complete full agreement here. What do the kids say nowadays? Full stop, whatever that is. That I don't trust the government. Now, I trust Robert Cicada.
No,
I'll be interviewing Robert Cicada face to face in front of a crowd of people coming up next month, the end of next month. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, expect to hear him on the program shortly after that as well. I'm waiting for the Gun Rights Policy Conference for that to occur. But all of our friends in our inner circle have talked to him. He's wide open to reaching out to us. And the fact that you got a hold of him and spoke with him as well is proof positive of that. I trust the man implicitly. However, I do not trust the government. And I do not trust what happens after the fact. And I don't trust people underneath him within the ATF that may do things for nefarious reasons, particularly if something untoward happens in the midterms.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I trust him as much as I can trust any public official. Everything he's said to me has always been the truth. He's never lied once. We've spoken several times, actually more than several. He's a good man. He's a gun owner. He has several safes full of guns at his home. However, he is one cog in the machine. Now, thankfully, he just happens to be the biggest cog at the ATF right now. I have some stories coming that will shed some more light on ATF and their practices. I expect him to take some action when he sees these, and hopefully he does the right thing. I think he's that kind of a guy, brother. I really do.
Yeah, but like you said, There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. He's but one cog. He is the biggest cog, but there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of cogs below him. Look, he can't have his finger on the pulse of everything. Guys, you might beat the charge, but you're not going to beat the ride, to use that euphemism again, if some of the underlings below him decide to do something and he doesn't find out about it until after the fact, which is likely what would occur. So, I mean, the whole thing's a mess. But can't I make a silencer? I hate to use that term, silencer or suppressor. Can't I use a potato? Right?
Well, there's a certain gun group out there that sent in a request to use a potato for a suppressor to the ATF.
Right.
Not too long ago. I think it might work for one shot, just like a oil filter, maybe might screw it onto the end of your barrel.
When we come back from the break, we're going to keep going with Lee the Gunwriter Williams. We've got dos segmentos. I don't know if that's a real word or not left, but we make up our own words here anyway. We'll be back with Lee the Gunwriter Williams. So cool. Welcome back in. Hey, Lee, before we get going, you'll appreciate this too. Let me give a shout out to some new affiliates. Just got our report today. We didn't get it last month. And guys, it's good. Talkers Magazine will be writing this up. We've had several straight months of great growth, and the Daily Show is really growing across the country, and that's really good to see. When we're live at 4 to 5 o'clock, there's a lot of competition on stations for talent, and I got to tell you, we're in some really good company there. Very proud of that. WKZI AM 800, Casey, Illinois. That is ranked as market number 209, but it's in the DMA market as market number 160, Terre Haute, Indiana. And they're running us from 10 to 11 a.m. right after the morning drive show. So great time there. And also WKZI FM 94.7 in Casey, Illinois. WPFR AM 1480, that's Terre Haute, Indiana. So I'm going to guess, guys, that's probably part of the same group there. We love you guys. Thank you for carrying Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. Hope you've been enjoying the program. And KHNR AM 690 Honolulu has picked up the Daily Show, not just the Sunday show. So Honolulu, you're listening to this voice 6 days a week, and that's a beautiful thing. Also KHNR FM 94.3 Honolulu. The Armed American Radio Show has picked up some additional affiliates. Both KZAI, AM and FM in Casey, Illinois, WPFR, AM and FM in Terre Haute, KNNR, AM 1400, Sparks, Nevada. That's the Reno area, market number 103. Welcome to the program. You're catching us live on Sundays from 5 to 8 p.m. now. That's also on the FM at 103.3 in the Washoe Valley, Nevada, and KPGF FM 93.7 Sun Valley, Nevada. Welcome. And also WTKF FM 107.1 Atlantic, which is the Greenville, that's North Carolina, the Greenville, Newburgh, and Washington areas. And that's top 102 market in the country. And they're running us also live on Sundays from 8 to 11 p.m. as well. So a lot of new affiliates, a lot of growth, guys. Our voice is getting out there, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Probably 20 to 25 new affiliates just in the last 2 to 3 months alone. Congrats to all of you. We're going to be filling your prescription for freedom hard, because that's what we do here. We grill hard. We talk hard. Lee the Gunwriter Williams, welcome back. Things that matter, bro. It's good to see that growth. It really is. It means we're reaching a much, much wider audience. We're on hundreds of stations across the country, and we just continue to grow, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening in any of those new markets or anywhere around the country, and you would like your products heard on Armed American Radio, just reach out to me at mark@armedamericanradio.com or mark@armedamericanradio.org, and we'll get back to you. We'll put your wonderful products for everybody to listen to. Lee, let's talk a little bit about Idaho. Let's go west now, shall we? You know, you saw the short that I put out on YouTube. I didn't leave anything to the imagination there. The angry Mark persona came out just on a quick walk over to the studio, and I flipped that camera around, and it was a one-take YouTube short that required no editing except putting a explosion sound clip where the words came out that I wouldn't or can't utter on the radio. It was a powerful clip, and I know a lot of people feel the way I feel about that. And it essentially said, if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. It's a fun one for sure. It's one of the funnest clips I've put out. but it said, hey, you know, these gun banners all running their mouths all day long. Gotta ban all these guns. Gotta ban the AR-15. They sure are good. They always mocking the NRA for saying things like the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. They say that never happens until it does. And you know what they say then? Not a thing. The boom explosion came out, and it's truly, aren't they embarrassed at this point? How? Come on, man. Do they not think people see through their nonsense? It's glaringly evident.
They have to. They have to. They should be just quiet and let us talk about this man. Why have to get involved? I have no idea. I know there's a lot of interest in the 5.7 right now, which he was carrying.
Of course.
Suppressed 5.7. You know, I don't care if it's a 32. I don't care if it's a 25. Mm-hmm. It kept the bad guy down. He was scared about getting shot. From what everyone is saying, he was going around like a wanton killer until he started taking rounds himself. That stopped the shooting. He stopped shooting people, went off and did the right thing, in my humble opinion. Had those two guys not been there, it could have been much, much worse.
Much
worse.
No, you're wrong. It would have been much, much worse.
Yeah.
There would have likely been dozens of dead. So we'll never know the exact number. We don't need to know the number. We know that countless lives were saved. I was discussing that with Mark Cox in the morning show on 97.1 FM this morning as well, on camera with those guys for the first time. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, we know that's the case. And I know that they know that that's the case too, Lee, which is why.
Exactly.
What does it say about them? The only word that I can come up with is stupid. They're just stupid. They know better. I guess it's the lowest common denominator that joins these groups is who they're trying to reach here, thinking that they don't know better.
I think it's bigger than that. I mean, look at these blue states, non-Idaho. That man would probably still be shooting people right there. Thank God there were two, an off-duty officer and then, of course, the hero with the 5.7, who went in and forced him to make a life choice. Had that been in New Jersey, had that been in California somewhere, he'd probably still be shooting people. We would have had an entire restaurant full of dead bodies. It goes without saying that if I lived in one of these reds or one of these blue states, and I do not, I live in Florida, one of the best states in the country, if not the best state. Here we're allowed to take care and defend ourselves. You're not going to be able to do that in a blue state.
Yeah.
At least not now.
In the next segment, we'll start it now. Greg's going to cut me off. Those hard breaks keep flying by. And those of you that are new on our Armed American Radio Network, again, welcome in. I ask everybody to buckle in every day. Put your seatbelt on because the hours fly by. They're very compelling conversations. When we come back from this break, Lee, I want to talk a little bit about, I believe he got off 8 rounds. None hit the mark. Now, didn't have to hit the mark because, as you said,
right,
the killer's plans changed instantly when he started taking rounds. And I would have liked to have been able to report to you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 hit their mark. But it effectively stopped. It did its job. The question I ask is, what happened to those 8 rounds? Okay, we never hear about that. Now, from what I understand, there was about a 30-yard distance. I could be wrong. I'm going to try to confirm that again, but I've heard that on multiple occasions from some very reliable sources, but I can't yet confirm that 100%. That's just what I'm told at 30 yards away. Now, I love to long-range pistol shoot. Mm-hmm. I don't get a chance to do it a lot because I don't have the property anymore, but nonetheless, it's really fun to do. It's also great practice. The average self-defense shooting is usually between 7 and 10 feet. Now, Lee, you're chomping at the bit. We're getting ready to take a break. So I'm going to turn the mic right over to you when we come back to talk a little bit about this, because this does highlight, in fact, our training requirements as responsibly armed Americans. We'll be right back with Lee. Lee, the Gunwriter Williams, welcome back in. Let's talk about the training component here. First off, from a tactical standpoint, I thought you don't see a lot of suppressed holstered weapons as concealed carry firearms. He was in a shoulder holster. I've listened to him speak. He's very well trained. I could tell simply by looking at his shooting stance that he knew what he was doing. But in a situation like that, tactically, when you're outside like that and you're shooting at distance, 30, 40 yards, somewhere around there, and there's rifle fire, maybe you want the killer to hear an unsuppressed weapon coming at him, because from those distances with traffic and cars and the chaos and everything else, is there a tactical disadvantage to being suppressed under those conditions?
You know, yes and no. Suppressors, I mean, if you've got a team and you want to be able to give voice commands, I would say run all your weapons suppressed. I think he missed just because of the stress of the situation.
Sure, of course.
I mean, I've trained my entire life to shoot and been through numerous schools, law enforcement, the military, you name it. But when it came time for me to actually shoot, I was okay. I was fine. And it wasn't that difficult to do. There's people that act complete opposite. You know, that's why I think the best training out there is learning how to get your little bullet hole right as close to the center of the target as you can, learning how to grip, learning how to use your sights, learning how to use your weapon effectively. You're never going to demonstrate, you're never going to go to any training that's going to demonstrate how your shooting is going to be done physically. Okay? You're going to run up here, you're going to take cover here, you're going to be shooting on the ground, you're going to be laying down. You're never going to encounter that. So you might as well just train people how to be good shots, be comfortable with their weapon, be able to reload quickly, and be able to get some rounds on the target.
Which
period.
From
end of my discussion.
Yeah, from the actual physical training aspect of it, it was very clear to me that he had been professionally trained. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Again, we're talking about the duress and the stress of firing at another human being, not a paper
30
target.
yards. I mean, that's 30 yards away.
Right.
He's got a handgun. The guy with the AR, obviously. I mean, hell of a ballsy move. Let's just say that for him and the off-duty officer to go up against a guy with an AR who doesn't care about shooting people with two handguns. Incredibly brave.
No, it's incredibly brave. And again, it was the fact that the guy was taking rounds that stopped him in his tracks, literally. And he he killed himself quicker. He knew he was going to be killed. He went in going to kill himself. So that's obvious because he did it. And fortunately, he offed himself quicker than he normally would have. But the sound, although, I mean, it's very possible that he might not, if it was just a suppressed weapon coming in, he might not know at that distance that he was even being fired upon, is my question.
Well, if the rounds are getting anywhere near him, he's going to hear them.
Right.
You know, he'll hear them whispering by at 2,400 feet per second.
Yeah, I believe that FN, that 5.7 is running up 27 to 2,800 muzzle velocity out of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a quick round.
No doubt about it. Yeah, when it first came out, the anti-gunners hated that one too. I bet they still hate it, but I guarantee FN's selling a lot of those firearms right now, Lee, as you were just mentioning earlier.
And as to the suppressor, that's his choice. Good on him. Maybe he just doesn't like wearing ear pro when he's out at the range. Who knows? Who
cares?
You can't badmouth this guy whatsoever.
No,
he did the Lord's work out there.
He did, and I would like to think that those of us who carry would do the same thing. There's a lot of moving parts to that. Obviously the sound advice is if you can get away safely, if it looks like you're going to be a target, if you can get away safely, you should do that. But if you can't, listening to him talk, I don't think he cared about that. He made it very clear. There's a task at hand. He said, and I quote, "There's a task at hand and I have to do this." And that is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Wouldn't it be nice to see somebody from the Brady campaign or Giffords or Everytown commend the man for what he did? But they won't.
Yeah, unfortunately, that'll never happen. Because they're not real people. They're not real people. I can't use on your show.
They're not real people. I don't think I've ever heard it phrased that way, but I like that. They're not real people. No, they're not. They're evil is what they are. Their ideology is evil, as evidenced by the fact that they're silent in a situation like this when so many lives were in fact saved.
Yeah, they should be commending him.
But they will not, as you said. Where are we with Tate? Let's wrap up with him today. Do we have any news on Mr. Adamiak?
Mr. Adamiak remains in a county jail.
Still.
Now, he evidently tried to get some type of education while he's in there, and he got that. His dad paid for it, and they shipped him something because all he was doing was sitting in a cell. At least now he'll have something to work on until he gets released, hopefully soon.
Have you, I don't want you to give anything away, but I'll ask the question. Have you spoken to anybody up the ladder?
Yeah, we have. And it's all a matter of, what is DOJ going to do here? What is the president going to do here? We don't know. Nobody knows, because if he gets a pardon, obviously there's only one person that can sign that piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, there's an auto pen, I guess.
Yeah, we should order one of those.
The same one that
60
auto pen Fauci, that dirtbag, he ought to be getting sprayed with a water hose 6 hours a day behind bars just because for the rest of his life. But again, that's a whole different show.
Yeah.
Lee, where can people find everything about Lee the Gunwriter Williams?
They can go to saf.org. They can go to thegunwriter.substack.com. They can go to armedamericannews.org. But we hope they go to saf.org, SAF, Second Amendment Foundation. They do a lot for everybody.
30.
Cases you were talking about earlier, going to the AR cases that are going to change our world, are both Second Amendment Foundation cases.
Yeah.
That's a big damn deal.
That is a huge deal. And of course, we lay that right at the feet of the one and only Mr. Alan Gottlieb. My kids have referred to him as the Savage since they were 8 and 10 years old. They love Alan. They call him the Savage. Lee, thank you for everything you do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow because they don't want us to. That's why we're here. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. I'll see you on the radio. Thanks for being here.